Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting. We've got a few members that are on their way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the committee, and for this opportunity today. My name is Mike Griffin. I am pastor of Liberty Baptist Church in Hartwell, Georgia. I had the opportunity to pastor this year and make 30 years. Also, I am public affairs representative for the Georgia Baptist Convention. We represent 1.3 million Georgia Baptists, over 3,600 churches in our state. And as Georgia Baptist churches, we believe in a long-cherished belief in the autonomy of the local church, and that means the local church having the right to determine its government, its polity, its policies. We talk about Southern Baptist and Independent Baptist. Well, there's nothing more independent than any Baptist anywhere. They won't let anybody tell them what to do, and they don't want even the Southern Baptist Convention telling them what to do. So we believe in the autonomy of the local church, and I'm not here to speak on every nuance of this bill. I know there's a lot of things in this bill, but when it comes to the opportunity for a local church to be able to decide for itself something that we believe is a constitutional right already, we believe that the state should give us that opportunity. Therefore, we believe that Georgia churches should have a right to do what they want when it comes to being able to choose whether or not to have weapons on their property. So I'd encourage you, if for that reason alone, to vote in favor of this bill. Thank you for this time.
Thank you, Reverend. Questions? We have two. Ms. Waits.
Thank you, sir. I'm just curious, can you offer one example in the state of Georgia where parishioners would need to have access to a weapon to protect themselves in a place of worship?
I don't have to have one in the state of Georgia. Okay. We've seen it across the country. In Texas, we had a pastor that used to be at First Baptist in Elberton, in the same association I was in, who was over in Texas, had a situation where I think there was a youth event, and a man came in, pulled out a weapon, and started shooting up everybody. I mean, that's just one example, but we don't have to have an example to defend our constitutional rights. If our Constitution says we ought to have that right, we've got it. And so, you know, that's just a part of the whole situation. But there are examples where we're seeing this, and we believe, I mean, I say we, I can't speak, be careful, I don't want to go beyond my statement on Georgia Baptist. I want to get my own personal opinion. I could speak to you as a pastor myself. You know, it's not the absence of guns that make us safer. It's guns that are by law-abiding citizens that bring about the protection. And so we don't have anything to fear from our Second Amendment rights.
As a man of faith, I take your opinion very highly. And my question is this. When you look at the Colorado movie theater shooting as well as the Virginia Tech, the parents are sitting before you, as well as Newtown, you mentioned that more guns would make us safer. You also stated that it was your belief that you should have these rights to choose. My question to you is this. When you look at this incident that happened in Fort Hood, Texas, as well as the D.C. sniper incident in D.C., these were former military officials that we assume were mentally stable. You believe that more guns make us safer. In those three incidents that I just referenced, is it your belief that had we had more guns, that 32 people would not have lost their lives at Virginia Tech? Do you believe that?
If there were other individuals who had the moral ability and the knowledge of what was going on, were mentally capable, they could have removed the threat. And, you know, really, it's a sanctity of human life issue as far as I'm concerned. And the Second Amendment right ends up protecting all life, and so that's a part of it. So I think it's also a sanctity of human life issue, although I'm not here to speak for Georgia Right to Life. But it's a protection of innocent human life is paramount. It's the most important protection that we can have in our country. If we don't have life, we don't have liberty. If we don't have liberty, we don't have property rights. So that's very important we protect. And I think among law-abiding citizens, as qualified in this legislation, no one would have any reason to fear having more people like that around you.
Mr. Hightower.
Start off with one, but now I have two. My first will go to answer your question. I firmly believe that if the right person is there, then more guns would have helped. Because in those situations, I can assure you, if my family would have been there watching this movie, I'd have been up and I'd have put a bullet between the guy's eyes. And we'd have saved a few lives. Hands down. If he's sitting there trying to threaten my family and he's killing other people, we'd have put an end to the threat. People may say, that's bad, that's a bad thing, but if my family's there, if the right person's there, I'm going to put an end to that threat. That's it. And I have a right to defend myself and my family. So in your situation, are more guns make it safer? Yes, if they're in the right hands, which we're trying to talk about law-abiding citizens who have done the right thing here. So if it's the right person, yes, it can definitely help. But now that you just made me think about that when you're talking about this. To you, we've heard a lot about a recent poll that was done by the AJC, and they, according to that poll, I believe their question was worded, if I'm getting it right, their poll stated Georgia law prohibits guns on school property and nuclear plants at bars and governing buildings, mental hospitals, and in churches, temples, and mosques. Some Georgians want to loosen gun restrictions while others want to maintain or tighten gun restrictions. How about you? Do you favor or oppose allowing guns in churches? Now, my wife is a school teacher. She teaches statistics. Now, when I read that, it's kind of leading, in my opinion. Would you not agree that sometimes polls can dictate where the outcome is going to be?
Well, when you read that statement, it makes it sound like you're, going to frisk people down, and if they don't have a gun, you're going to give them one. That's not what we're talking about here. You're not trying to say we just want everybody just, bring as many guns as you can, bring them all with you. You're saying in this bill, if you have a permit, you have had background checks, then if that facility says that's okay, you can. And again, the church issue here, we're not saying we want everybody to bring as many weapons as we can. We're saying under these conditions, if the church says it's okay, then yes, if you meet this criteria. So it's not just like there needs to be some qualifying on those types of polls. I know on my Facebook page, I just threw that out there yesterday. I don't think I had a single person say that they didn't agree that a church ought to have the right to choose. We're not saying that it's going to be demanded that you have to bring guns in order to come to church. We said that you would have an opportunity for the congregation to choose if it wants to. So that's the issue. Should the church, as a property rights issue, be able to say we do or do not want weapons on our property?
And I think you're hitting the nail right on the head with me, and we've rehashed this a lot in these hearings in the past, but it wouldn't surprise you that type of question would lead people to probably say no in that poll. But there was another poll conducted, and I have it here. This was done May 13th, 2013. It was a statewide poll that was conducted, and the question is a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit more proper to what we're dealing with. Because we've heard so much here lately about how that poll came out, and there's so many churches against this and people against this. Why are we doing this? But when you read the question or phrase the question a little bit more appropriately, in my opinion, you get a more exact answer. This is how this poll had put this. If churches and private property owners of bars decide to allow citizens to carry concealed guns on their property for self-defense, should the state government overrule the owners overrule the owners and prohibit citizens from carrying a gun for self-defense on that property anyway? And when the poll was done that way, and you relate it more towards a private property right, it's not surprising that the totals there, you have well over 50% of the people who are saying the government should stay out of private property rights. And I guess my issue is you keep hearing people bring up these different polls, but for every one you can have another say something different. It depends on how the question is worded. But for what we're talking about a private property right. So to properly get the right answer here, you have to be honest with your people that you're actually having a poll on and let them know this is dealing not just with guns in churches. It's dealing with a private property right that the state, should never have been in the business of delegating those rights anyway.
Right, and what I was using the term Second Amendment rights was very important, but you know, those rights end where property rights begin. So at that moment, the property right would trump that, and you would say, no, we're not going to have this. So, you know, if you're coming over to my home and I say I don't want any guns in my house, then I should be able to say I don't want any guns in my house. So I don't think we have any. I think liberty is not anything we need to fear in that area.
Yeah. But one last thing, because I heard this yesterday, and then I'll get off on this one, but I also heard that there was someone said, oh, well, you could, you know, churches are going to have to put signs up now, but they will not. Churches, this does not make a church do anything that they're not doing now. As a private property owner, I don't have to put a sign up on my property saying that I'm not going to allow guns, nor will churches have to do that. This is a decision that the church can make. They can choose to enforce that however they choose. If they don't want firearms or weapons or guns on their premises, they can choose to display or not display or convey that message however they see fit. But this does nothing to require them to put anything up, correct?
I'm not sure if there's any declaration in there specifically regarding a sign.
There's not.
I'd have to appeal that to the author, but I didn't see anything
There's
that
not.
said that myself.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hightower. If you'll bear with us, you're a popular guy, Mike.
Only you would know, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Holcomb. Ms. Waits? Was that you, Ms. Frazier? Excuse me, Ms. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one question for just verification. Now, you say you represent the First Baptist Church.
No. I am the pastor of Liberty Baptist Church in Hartwell, Georgia.
And what is your other
I
title?
represent the Georgia Baptist Convention. I'm their public affairs representative, their lobbyist here at the Capitol.
So so you got permission to represent, you said over 36,000 churches?
3,600 churches,
3,600 churches.
1.3 million members in our denomination. That's the
Right.
representation of our
And all of
convention.
these churches are in favor of this bill?
I am representing them as I was given the responsibility by the convention of the executive director, yes. So we do speak
All
on
right,
their
thank you.
behalf.
I just needed clarification. I just
Well,
wanted to make
sure,
sure.
I wouldn't be here if they didn't want me here.
Would you like to speak again?
I just had a question for Representative Hightower. Sure. The concealed carry permit, he indicated that for individuals who have the concealed carry permit. When I acquired this a few years ago, I was not required to know how to load the weapon, unload the weapon, or shoot the weapon. So do you think it's safe for individuals who can't unload, load a weapon, or shoot a weapon to be able to take a weapon wherever they want, even with this particular permit? Do you think that's okay?
Representative, we have someone that's testifying. I'm going to let you two hash it out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for being here today.